So before we get into this next video, I just want to say thanks to everybody that subscribed to get me to, we're a little over 400 now. It's probably more than what I thought this channel would grow to. When I started it, I didn't think it would grow. I mean, it's not super fast, but it's faster than I thought it would be. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that subscribed to get me there. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, liking the video. And then we're gonna get into these next projects. I've got some sidecar parts for a guy that I normally do work for, but it's a little bit different this time. It's gonna be like an Italian-made sidecar, so it's got some different pieces to it. I've got some pieces off of a Polaris four-wheeler, some wheels, a couple bumpers, and some springs. And then I've got some parts off of an LS motor that we're gonna be doing in like a candy red. So that one might be interesting to see. A little bit different than what I normally do. I know I normally just have black wheels, and I'm doing something just a little bit different to each one. But we're gonna start off with the sidecar parts, I think, and then I don't know if I'm gonna put them all into one video or make separate videos yet, but I'm thinking about doing just separate videos for each one. So let's jump into it. So like I said before, you know, I do a lot of work for this guy. I powder coat all of his sidecars that he builds. So most of that's pretty monotonous, just boring production work. That's all the same parts. Some of these are his normal parts, like these axles right here. I do these all the time. They got to be taped and covered, you know, for blasting and coating. But this isn't. These parts are from an Italian-made sidecar, so there's a lot of different stuff in here. A lot of stuff that's going to be challenging to hold or to hang in the oven. Like this one, there's no place to hold it. This one, I might can get a hook in here and just hang it like that, but you know, there's a lot of pieces that don't have holes in them. They're just like covers that screw in from the back. And then I've got these long trim pieces right here that you can see that don't have any holes in them, so I'm gonna have to build a rack just to lay them across. And I got some short ones over here. Some of them actually have holes in them, but most of them don't. So that's gonna be a little bit challenging on those. Then I just got some little spacers and odds and end pieces in there. But then we got this four-wheeler job right here. We'll get into that one later. And then over here, I've got some parts for an LS motor, like I talked about. A lot of those are in boxes. Intercooler, a couple cover plates, and some valve covers that we'll be spraying. So we'll get into the sidecar job first, and then we'll get those later. So we got the first batch of parts that I'm gonna spray lined up. Had to get not too creative, but a little bit on some of these parts. I mean, not everything that you're gonna powder coat is gonna be, you know, have that perfect hole to hang from. I mean, a lot of them will, and most parts will. Like these, not a problem. You know, just use the screw or bolt hole, and they go right on. Like this one, these are two separate parts. This piece actually threads into this one. So I just taped these threads and stuck it in and then screwed it in a little bit. And then you can see I just found a spot on the back and stuck it in there, and you'll never even notice that. And it's aluminum, so it's gonna be okay, you know, down the road. It's not gonna cause any issues. You know, you see another one of these parts, I just had to stick it in there, which is gonna be a backside too. Same with that one right there. You know, and these, like right here, the hook is just like halfway through, which is gonna be okay. You just gotta be a little more careful when you're moving it. But I couldn't put it all the way through because it would show a line on the front side. So I just did that, and that's gonna work just fine. Same with this one right here. So we're gonna get to spraying these. I'll show you a little bit of that, not too much, just since there's so many little parts, it's gonna be hard to even see on the camera from a distance, but I'll see what I can get for y'all. like when you're trying to hang stuff. You know, not everything's gonna be perfect. Same when you go to mask stuff. You know, sometimes you run into something where, sure, you could go ahead and tape all this up, but then you got to remove the tape when you're done. And you know, it's not always easiest thing to do once the powder's cooled, unless you take it out of the oven while it's still warm. But that's more time. So it's not pretty, but what I came up with is a solo cup and a latex glove over the top of it. And then all you do is just slide it over to your tape line and just let it sit right there, spray it and pull it off. And your only thing you have left is a tape line. There's no powder on this side of the shaft. So I'll go ahead and show you all how that works. You know, maybe you can incorporate that in something that you have in the future, or something that you cut regularly and you're trying to find an easy way or an easy solution for masking that's also cheaper too. So okay, so you can see I just sprayed that with the cup on there, and then you're gonna pull this off, and everything is nice and clean on this side. And then all you got is your one tape line, and you'll pull that off, you know, after you cure it and everything. And I always, if you can kind of see it on camera, like right here, I always fold a little lip on the end of my tape. That way it doesn't stick, so I always have something to pull off when I'm done. Instead of trying to cut it and then peel it off, I just leave myself a little pull tab that won't stick to it. So maybe that's a little tip you can use too. But this one's ready to go in the oven. I got 3 more that I'm gonna do real quick, and I got some more parts that I don't know how much of it I'm gonna show, but I'll show you all the finished product. And then always, if you can, pull your plugs out, because it leaves a lot cleaner edge instead of a little buildup around here. I get it, sometimes you can't, but majority of the time you can, and it'll look a lot better when you're done. Okay, so the last parts I have to do out of these sidecar parts is these long trim pieces. The simplest way I can figure out to do them is just setting them on a milk crate. They're all suspended. You run a piece of wire under them, and then even if it's just touching the concrete, just put it on the concrete. These pieces are, you know, there's no Faraday cage areas on them. They're flat, smooth. The powder's gonna lay down pretty well. You almost don't even need a ground, but this will be sufficient enough for this job. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it and show you all how it works. And then after that, I'm just gonna pick them up and I'm gonna set them on a little bit raised portion on my rack, kind of on the floor. They're laying on my rack, and then I found this piece of scrap. It's actually the bottom leg of my ladder to my attic. It was just sitting there. So you can see that everything's off the ground. I put some of the small pieces in the corners down there, and then I actually put the other ones up here on top. So you can see them just like that. Because I was gonna weld together a rack, but you know, it was gonna be kind of a one-time use thing. So this definitely saved me time and money on this job. So everything's in here. We're gonna get the oven on and get everything cured and see how they came out. So here's the finished product of all these sidecar parts. Most everything came out pretty good. I'll get to that in a second. You know, it looks nice. You see a couple fingerprints. I even had gloves on, but sometimes they still come through. But everything's pretty shiny. Looks pretty good. You can see the lines on these, nice and clean, no issues, no powder on the threads or shaft where the bearing goes. So the parts that kind of messed up, I didn't take into consideration that these are cast aluminum. Most of the time the stuff he brings me is all steel and I know what I'm doing. Didn't even cross my mind to possibly outgas these. And you can see, let it focus. You can see right here, like little outgas bubbles it looks like right here too. So you can, there's got a couple of them on a few of these parts, but you know, not a real big deal. But I'm gonna go ahead and redo them. See this piece, it has a bunch. Just a little dusty, but you know, nothing too crazy, just some little outgas bubbles. This one's probably the worst looking one overall, but we're gonna go ahead and redo those. That's why it's really important to outgas your cast parts. That way you don't get those little bubbles like that and stuff. But other than that, everything came out good. We're gonna get those taken care of for him and wrapped up so he can come get them.